Hi, this is Nick Forster. We're going to share one of our favorite eTown shows from the archives, and it starts right now.
From eTown Hall in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, it's a special two-part eTown program featuring Che Apalache from Argentina and beyond, our interview guest, KC Curberson-Alvarado, and from Brooklyn, New York, Aoife O'Donovan. I'm Helen Forster. Right now, please join me, if you would, in welcoming our host, Nick Forster.
Thank you, Helen. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to eTown. Thanks to Che Apalache for helping us with our opening theme this week, our all-acoustic, wild international version of our opening theme. So this week we are reaffirming our commitment to a simple truth that music is both a universal language and is a critical connector across boundaries and borders at a time when we really, really need those connections. We are definitely in this together, folks, especially if you're talking about big issues that concern us all. This week we've got musical flavors that come together and cross-pollinate from lots of different places, from Europe and Ireland and Argentina and Mexico and the southern US, and it actually all fits. It all works together beautifully, as you're about to find out. Che Apalache is here from Argentina to play some international original bluegrass music. They'll be up before too long, but first, our pal Aoife O'Donovan is here to share some music from her latest project. This is one that includes a few tunes from more typical sources, but features music that she and her friend Jeremy Kittel have developed around the poetry of the late poet laureate from the state of Oregon, Peter Sears. And they're kind of moody, dreamy, inviting poems, but beautiful string arrangements. And Jeremy, with help from some local standout players, is here. And we like to call the local string players the Free Range Quartet. Just because, but the faces and the instruments change from time to time, but we've got them with us. And it's all going to start right now. Would you please welcome back to eTown, Aoife O'Donovan.
Thanks, Nick. We'll come out in waves here. We'll just have just Jeremy first. And we'll do an old folk song for you guys.
It was on a bright March morning, I bid New Orleans adieu. I took the road to Jacksontown, my fortune to renew. I cursed all foreign money, no credit could I gain, and it filled my heart with longing for the lakes of Pontchartrain. I stepped on board a railroad car in the early morning sun. I rode the rails till evening, and I laid me down again. All strangers here, no friend to me, till a dark girl toward me came. I fell in love with a Creole girl on the lakes of Pontchartrain. I said, my lovely Creole girl, my money here, it's no good. If it weren't for the alligators, I'd sleep out in the woods. You're welcome here, kind stranger. Our house, it's very plain, but we never turned a stranger out on the lakes of Pontchartrain. Me to her mummy's house, and she treated me quite well. The hair upon her shoulders and jet black ringlets fell. should surely be in vain. So charming was my Creole girl on the lakes of Pontchartrain. I asked her if she would marry me. She said that can never be. She had got a lover and he was far at sea. She promised that she would wait for him and faithful he'd remain till he returned to his Creole girl on the lakes of Pontchartrain. Fairly well, my bonny girl, I'll never see you no more. But I'll never forget your kindness in the cottage by the shore, and at every social gathering a flowering glass I'll raise, and I'll drink to the health of my Creole girl on the lakes of Pontchartrain. I'll raise a glass to my Creole girl on the lakes of Pontchartrain.
All right, we're going to get ready here to play the first song from the suite Nick was talking about, Bullfrog's Croon. This one is called Night Fishing. Everybody good?
Like loneliness at ease with itself, I cast and close my eyes for the war out across the water, the line striking the surface.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that was pretty.
Thanks, Nick. Do I sit here?
Yeah, go ahead. And if I'm not mistaken, that was about fishing at night, fishing in the dark.
It was about fishing in the dark, about sitting all by yourself and loving that feeling.
That sounds like an unusual source of inspiration for a piece of music because it sounds so complete, kind of solitary and alone and beautiful.
It's the amazing thing about setting poems to music is that they weren't supposed to be songs. They were just
Right.
poems. But then I stole them.
Yeah. So Peter Sears is the poet you're drawing this material from. Were you inspired by his words or did you meet him? What happened first?
Well, it actually started with a commission. Jeremy and I were asked to put together a piece of music for the Brit Festival out in Oregon. We were working with the great conductor Teddy Abrams, who people might know from his recent collaboration with Jim James. He just did an epic orchestral record with Jim James. Anyway, he asked us to come to this piece for the Brit Festival. He suggested we try to find some sort of local tie-in, and
Right.
he said, "How about the Poet Laureate of Oregon?"
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I got a book of Peter Sears poems and was absolutely floored, really from the first couple of ones I read. Set them to music. We met Peter. He came to the premiere of the piece. He passed away a couple of years later, unfortunately, but not before another beautiful connection, which is that at the time I was writing this, I was on tour with Mary Chapin Carpenter, and I was telling her this kind of, I'm working on this piece. I was opening for her, and she's such a mentor to me. And she just burst into tears, and she said, he was my English teacher in high school.
Oh.
So it just had this, the whole thing just felt like it was meant to be.
Well, two things. One is I assume there was a commission involved because otherwise it would be an incredibly audacious and ambitious thing for someone like you to do now at this stage in your life, considering you're, a new mother and you tour with I'm with her and you've got all these projects and stuff. So this is a big, big deal, first of all.
Well, thank you.
And second of all, it must have been really interesting for Peter to hear this sort of the words and essentially the soundtrack to this solitary experience suddenly be celebrated by a full orchestra with 121 pieces.
Exactly. It's wild, but that song is sort of the opening of three poems I picked. I picked three poems, and they are standalone songs as they are standalone poems. But when we premiered the piece, we did that song into another very different song that you'll hear shortly called The Darkness. And it kind of just really, to me, the whole thing just encompasses like the human experience, the human journey. You have to be comfortable with yourself and with your solitude to find love at the end, I think. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you don't, being alone is underrated in the human experience.
Not to me. I rate it very highly.
Yeah. Some people handle it so differently, though, right?
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I think I'm the oldest of four kids, and I'm always around a lot of people, so...
You value it when you can find it.
When somebody says, fly to Colorado for 24 hours and get off the plane and do a show, and then fly home the next morning, and I'm like, I'll get to be in a hotel room by myself. So this is... I'm in.
That's pretty cool.
That's why I'm here.
Thank you. That's so flattering. Yeah. Couldn't care less about us, just those few hours of solitude in the hotel room.
Now?
Okay, fine. I can take it.
Yeah.
Hey, so we've got some international flair on our program this week. We've got the folks, Che Apalache from Argentina, and then we've got some other conversations going on about that. And I can't forget that you very specifically have maintained a deep connection to your ancestral roots. As a kid, you used to go back to Ireland every summer and spend some time and meet your family, right?
Yeah, and I still do. I still go to Ireland at least once a year, and as a mother, I've been thinking a lot about how important it is to maintain those connections and how much of a gift it was for my parents to take 4 kids every summer to Ireland, really for the sole reason of being close to our cousins and being close to our grandparents. And it was an incredible gift, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do the same with my daughter.
In case you just tuned in, you're listening to eTown. I'm here with Aoife O'Donovan. Did you ever, just if you think back to those times, especially early on, did you ever feel like you were sort of an outsider in both places? Like you're in Ireland, but you're an American, and some of the language and some of the tradition and some of the culture is other than, and then you're back in Boston, and of course being Irish in Boston is sort of like being Irish in Ireland.
That is true. I think I less felt like an outsider here in America because, I'm
Right.
so American. My mom is so American. But the main thing when I was a kid is in going to Ireland, my Irish cousins would always comment on how loud we were. We were the loud Americans. And it's just unfortunate it was true. It still is true. And Americans are still very loud in foreign countries.
Yeah.
But I really remember as even a very small kid, you're so loud. Would you ever be quiet?
Did you ever mix up words or get things wrong and then feel like you were, I suppose you would learn. You would learn quickly if there was some local slang that you didn't understand.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What's the thing? He's a jolly good fellow. I always say, and so say all of us. And so say
Right.
all of us. And then every time I do that here, I don't
what?
even, they're like, what are, no, and nobody can deny.
Yeah.
Little things like that, but I do it the Irish way.
Yeah.
And I drive on the left always. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Note to self, never let Aoife drive. I love the fact that the music, of course, is a great connector. It kind of breaks down all those boundaries and borders.
It really does. And music is, such an important thing for my entire family. And one of the songs actually on the EP is an old Irish folk song that I first heard my Uncle James singing in pubs around Ireland. Not around Ireland, but the local pub.
Yeah.
And we would have sing-songs.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact that you can draw from so many different sources. And that leads us back to this sort of ethereal, magical string arrangements that you and Jeremy have created. Really, really a beautiful sound and a different thing, along, of course, with the free-range strings helping out.
Yes, Ludek and Paul and Stephanie are just doing such an amazing job on very little rehearsal. We're very impressed.
Yeah. And is this going to be a flavor that's going to be a sort of defining characteristic for your touring for the next little while? Or?
Yeah, I'm heading out on the road with a group. Alex Hargraves is going to play violin, and great violist from New York, Mario Goto, and Ethan Jojevich
Right.
on bass.
Oh, that's great. And then what about the 121-piece orchestras? Are you going to tap into that from time to time?
I'm going to tap into that from time to time, yes. Once it's really hard to justify having your own hotel room in that scenario, so
Right.
I couldn't really pull it off this time.
It's a very legit career path, though. I just want to mention, for somebody who was in, of course, Goat Rodeo was kind of legit for a little while.
And we're coming back.
Goat Rodeo is?
We are.
Should you explain and remind to our audience exactly who's in that band?
Goat Rodeo is a project I'm the guest vocalist in. It's a band with Chris Thiele, Edgar Meyer, Stuart Duncan, and then this other guy, I don't know, Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got a lot of name recognition there.
Yeah. No ego on the road in that bunch. All right, well, good luck finding solitude in your future. Meanwhile, let's get back to music. Welcome back, if you would, along with her buddies, Aoife O'Donovan.
Thanks, Nick. Give us a minute to tune up here. So we'll do the sort of final two pieces of the suite. The first one is called The Darkness, and then it'll end with a song called Valentine.
Say you're out for a walk, and somewhere through the trees you walk out of everything in your head, or around by a window in thought, and what you look out to grace the trees. Perhaps you don't see it all. What you are thinking there in the trees, as you open like this through a window and walk into a gazing, then darkness, darkness. Farther back than the water you dove into, hands in front of your face to feel your way down and know. This darkness did not begin, did not gather. Then something backing off, it seems, as you come in, re-enters you and crosses you over. The sleep of the living and the dead, the sleep of the living and the dead, the sleep of the living and the dead. Big frogs croak, baby frogs slither. I'd rather go broke than not be with her. Bullfrogs croon, slugs wiggle wider. I'd live in ruin to lie down beside her.
Jeremy Kittel arranged all those beautiful strings, everybody. Thank you.
Aoife O'Donovan. The record's called Bullfrog Sproon, out on Yep Rock Records, along with Jeremy Kittel. And the free range strings, Ludek Wojtkowski, Stephanie Mienka, and Paul Earhart.
This portion of eTown is made possible by the Bohemian Foundation, building stronger communities through the bohemian qualities of creativity and imagination. On the web at bohemianfoundation.org. And if you're curious about eTown's home base, eTown Hall, our beautiful solar-powered music venue, community center, and recording studio located in downtown Boulder, Colorado, you can learn more about it on our website, eTown.org. If you happen to tune in late and you've missed some of this week's program, the eTown podcast will have this episode and others, along with content from past shows as well. It'll be available for free in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast directories. You're listening to eTown.
I'm Nick Forster. You're listening to eTown. Coming up, Che Apalache is here from Buenos Aires. Amazing group of international players. 2 from Argentina, 1 from Mexico, 1 from here in the States. But first, every week, we get a chance to share a story of somebody who is doing something special in their hometown or beyond. Generally, these are volunteers, or sometimes they're business people or authors or science folks. This week we have a great story about community building in Tennessee that started small and really grew into something special. Here comes Helen to tell you more about this week's guest.
Thank you, Nick. Back in 2014, KC Curberson-Alvarado and others launched an event that aimed to help people better understand the growing Hispanic community that was drawn to their area because of a surge in manufacturing that began in the early 90s. Essentially, through a food and music festival, their goal was to celebrate different cultures and debunk myths about immigrants in a region that can be hostile toward them. Well, in 2018, when a meatpacking plant in nearby Granger, Tennessee, was raided by ICE and 97 undocumented workers were arrested, Casey's group, Ola Lakeway, suddenly became the default resource center for families that were affected by that raid. They've since taken on a lot more responsibility than they ever imagined. It's an interesting snapshot of the larger national immigration issue, and KC has traveled from her home in Tennessee to be with us to tell us more. So please join me now in welcoming KC Curberson-Alvarado.
Casey, welcome to eTown. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about where you are from, your hometown. It's a series of small towns, actually, as I
Yes.
understand.
So I'm from a rural community in eastern Tennessee. It's called Morristown, Tennessee. And it is connected by lakes, Douglas Cherokee Lakes, and there's small towns around the Lakeway region that connect to us. In my town, there's about 30,000 people, and then around us in the smaller communities, we have about 10 to 20,000. And so when we commute all together, we could actually make 100,000 during the day.
Wow. Okay. Well, hope you don't do that anytime
Yeah.
soon. I suspect that in your neighborhood there have been migrant workers in agriculture for a long time. But I understand that over the last few decades, lots of manufacturers have moved in.
Yes. So we have over 108 manufacturers, and 12 of them are Fortune 500 companies.
And when you have manufacturers, you need labor.
Exactly.
And so is that why you started the festival, to sort of celebrate some of the diversity that came with that influx of labor from all over the world?
Yes, to celebrate the diversity that's there, the culture, the food, the art.
And it's primarily Latino immigrants or Latino community that's providing the labor force in this manufacturing sector?
A large majority, yes.
Yeah. And let me ask you a question. If somebody speaks Spanish, does everyone presume that they're from Mexico?
They do, yes.
And yet, that's probably not the case, right?
Not the case at all. We have people from over 15 different countries, a lot of them from Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Peru, even Panama.
Yeah. And then you became kind of a trusted person in the community, able to go between the town and these immigrant families, basically, right?
Yes, we serve as a partner and a resource.
And everything kind of changed when that ICE raid happened.
Yes, in April 5th, it was actually my husband's birthday. We had the ICE raid occur at 10 a.m. during the morning there, and it turned our town upside down.
Yeah.
We had over 97 people detained, a lot of them men, and so it affected over 500 students. So, I mean, it was just a lot of fear, a lot of uneasiness, just where to go and what to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so when the men are taken away from that family unit, losing income and in some cases, probably the women who were left behind, the mothers who were left behind, aren't used to doing things that their husbands were doing, right?
Oh, yes, it's not within their culture. So they're at the home and the homemakers. And so a lot of the women we had low literacy levels. They were unable to drive. They never navigated the system there. And so it was a lot coming at them all at once.
And they all called you.
Yes. We had reached out and created actually a rapid response center that the families could come to. And so the ladies would come and they would meet with us to help us to read things, to translate things, to notarize things, to get materials and resources, whatever they needed, we provided.
Yeah. And just to be clear, you have what, a couple staffers and some volunteers?
I do. I have 2 part-time staff people. I myself am a volunteer, and then I have over 10 volunteers that come in.
And so it's a tiny little crew and
Yes.
a big, big job.
Yes. I probably exhaust them at times.
And you decided to raise and distribute money to help along the way, right? And that provided a kind of a dividing line in the work you had been doing, right?
Yes. People started reaching out to us probably within the first couple of hours of where they could drop off material goods and then also funds. So we set up a GoFundMe. Within 24 hours, we'd raised $30,000, and within a week, we'd raised $120,000.
Wow, that's amazing. Very generous. Mostly from the community?
Mostly from the community. We use those funds to pay legal fees as well as basic needs, so utilities, rents, insurance, transportation, whatever the families needed.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what was the problem? Because it seemed like from what I gathered, there were some people on your board or in your area who were thinking, well, if you're going to raise money and give away money, we were just doing a festival and now we're raising money and giving away money. That's not what we signed up for?
Yes. So at the time when we started, I had 7 board members, and after the events, I had 4. Those board members wanted to do, the fun things, the cultural fest, the things that, got us a lot of notoriety. But when it came down to the nitty-gritty, the dirty work, they stepped away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's more about the work than it is the ideology of helping or the idea of helping immigrant families that separated those board members from each other?
Yeah.
It's a pretty conservative part of the state.
It is.
Yeah. And just to be clear, most of the laborers who were picked up in that ICE raid, a lot of the work that they were doing is not work that locals would be drawn to, essentially,
Yes.
right?
They're using hand tools to slaughter animals. They're working 10-hour shifts with very little breaks and no air conditioning.
Yeah. In case you just tuned in, you're listening to eTown. I'm speaking with KC Curberson-Alvarado. So KC, now, what kind of services does your organization provide?
So we've broadened it out quite a bit. So we provide education services, outreach services, and actual legal services.
And how do you do that? Do you hire lawyers, or do you have lawyers who volunteer through you, or how does it work?
Yeah. So we reached out to our local law center. It's a UT Law Clinic, and we're able to be connected to a couple of lawyers that actually work pro bono. They come in every Saturday and meet with families from 9 to 1.
Amazing. And what if the language barrier? It must be tough for this in this situation, right?
It is. We actually need sometimes translators for the translators because we have people that speak dialects. Yes.
But do you have education for folks if they want to learn English or want to become more literate?
Yes. So we provide on Tuesdays nights, we provide English language classes from basic to intermediate, as well as we provide Spanish classes that include some cultural competency.
Wow. And I understand there was some hassle with the utility company, right? That I didn't quite understand just from your website. I was trying to learn about it, but
So that's originally kind of how we started. We started off with these community meetings and discussions, and we had an issue come up where a mother was living in dilapidated housing, and the reason she was living there is because she was actually renting someone social in order to get her lights turned on. And in order to do that, she had to pay $800 in addition to the fees to get her lights turned on. So I worked with a local lawyer. We sat down with the utilities and actually talked out and discussed with them what needs to be able to be changed. What we realized, there was a civil rights violation. You could actually use consulate IDs to get your lights turned on. And so what we do is not create like a negative story or any kind of bad publicity, but we actually partnered with them to be able to help accept those documents and get that in place. So now that everyone can use consulate IDs if they have them.
for the utility company.
For the utility company.
Wow, that's great. And I also heard the local law enforcement is now kind of partnering with you rather than sort of keep an eye on you.
Yes, so we're at a first name basis. We're always in contact of things that are going on. When we had our last festival, there was a lot of issues in the current administration, so they provided us additional 4 officers just to protect us, and usually you'd have to pay out of pocket for that,
Yeah.
and they provided that for free for us.
And so aside from the dollars that the community kicked in for your GoFundMe, are they contributing other things? Because obviously there must be a lot of need in these households
Yes.
when they're losing their income earners.
So we have material goods. We've actually partnered with another nonprofit to house those, but the families can come in and get a food voucher or a voucher for hygiene items, and we're constantly receiving those on a weekly basis.
Yeah. And so how would you describe the situation now? Do you feel like people feel like they are heard and they've got somebody who's on their side and your message is getting through to most of these communities and most of these families?
Yes, I believe that we're providing a voice for the community, as well as educating those that are unaware of the difficulties and the barriers that our immigrant community faces.
Yeah. Have you changed some hearts and minds in your neighborhood?
Oh, I definitely think so. Many a times we saw, especially during the raid, people will step in and bring in donations and said, I voted, I'm Republican, and I did not know exactly what the immigration policies were, but I didn't know that it was this, and they apologized for that.
Wow, that's a big deal. Tell me about the upcoming census. Is that a thing that you're working on? Because I know for some people there's concern, particularly in the immigrant communities, about whether or not they should step up and get counted.
Yes. So in the community, there was a lot of fear about the question that was asking about citizenship. We know that legislation didn't pass through, and so that question is not going to be on there, but that education hasn't flowed into the immigration community. So we're actually working with our local government and an agency called Tennessee Immigrants and Rights and Refugee Coalition to educate about the census.
And then a couple more things, and I'll wrap it up. But I want to ask you about, first of all, do you ever sort of stop and think, God, what did I get myself into? I just wanted to do a festival that was food and music and sort of celebrate the diversity of these cultures, and now you're deep in this, right?
Every day, yeah, I wake up and say, what are we doing again? What are we doing?
And is there a website if somebody wants to help or donate or get involved? It's a tax deductible organization.
And as we're a 501c3, it's olalakeway.org.
Ola Lakeway, HOLA Lakeway.org. Okay.
And we also have a Facebook page that's very active.
And lastly, are you also a volunteer?
I am 100% volunteer.
You've got another gig sometime.
So I have a full-time job as the director of career and technical education.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is your side project, and it's making such a difference, Casey.
Oh, thank you so
affecting
much.
so many people.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming all the way from Tennessee to share your story with us. We're proud of you. We're so happy you're doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. That's KC Curberson-Alvarado from Tennessee, working so hard with Ola Lakeway. Thanks, Casey. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great story. Now, if by chance you tuned in the middle of this segment and you'd like to hear the whole conversation, as always, you can find this program for free through your favorite podcast distributors or on our website, etown.org.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Casey. What a cool story.
Your visit to eTown is made possible in part by the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, or SCFD, one of the largest cultural funding mechanisms in the United States, supporting nearly 300 organizations in the greater Denver area. As a reminder, for your viewing pleasure, there are over 2,000 videos on the eTown YouTube channel, where you can also subscribe in order to stay up to date with our latest offerings. You're listening to eTown.
I'm Nick Forster. I'd like to say hello to our listeners who are hearing eTown right now on stations like KHEN in Salida, Colorado, on WVPE in Elkhart, Indiana, and on KACU in Abilene, Texas. As always, if you'd like some more information about any of the things we're up to here at eTown, lots of stuff can be found at etown.org. And you can also check out our YouTube channel to watch thousands of videos that are really good. We've got more music coming up from Aoife O'Donovan in a little while. Right now, I'll tell you about what's next. Che Apalache is something that we never imagined, a bluegrass band from Argentina. They got started when Joe Troop, who grew up in North Carolina and developed a love for bluegrass and old-time music, he began traveling the world as a young person. He eventually found his way to Spain, met some Argentinian musicians there and decided to move to Buenos Aires and then began teaching bluegrass and old-time music down there. And pretty soon, the best of his students got together, and the band was born. And they aren't simply an international bluegrass band. They are a band that makes a point of reminding us that we're all connected across borders and boundaries, as I was saying before, in any language, despite all whatever blocks you might want to put up, races, sexual orientation, we're all connected. And we can do better, and that's part of their message. We're happy they're here. Please welcome Che Apalache.
Travel near, we travel far, from the town of Buenos Aires. Cambalache musical, pull a chair up to the table. Hoy brindamos from the heart, without borders, sin fronteras. Este viaje va a empezar. confío en ti. Llámalo al leñero, dile que traiga leña, que quiero quemar la pena que hiere mi corazón. Dale, muchachos, aquí estamos en Boulder, Colorado, baby. ¡Ole!
Azúcar.
Llámalo al leñero, dile que traiga leña, que quiero quemar la pena que hiere mi corazón. Why, thank y'all. 'Tis a pleasure. Well, we got things rolling with a little candombe, murga, some musical textures from way down under, from the city of Buenos Aires, Argentina, which is where Che Apalache was born, I guess. Well, the band. Two of the guys are from there. Paul's from Mexico, and I'm from North Carolina, so we're a mixed bag. 1, 2, 3, 4. My living days are almost done. My earthly race is nearly run. I'll cash in my chips and then I'll go. Eternally to drift and flow. My spirit soars, basking in gratitude. Buoyantly flow. It's in the wind. I'll lay down my heart, so blissful and satisfied. Ooh, now the next journey begins. My living days are almost done. My earthly race is dearly run. Ooh, I'll cash in my chips, then I'll go. Eternally to drift and flow. Lay down my heart, so blissful and satisfied. Now the next journey began. La, 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 Come friends, come gather round for to sing, oh sing we joyfully.
Let's sing about a better world,
Where different paths have been unfurled, of a land where freedom reigns. From way up high on a mountainside, one can see the wide world over.
from way up there is plain to see.
Regardless of one's race or creed, in hearts we're all the same. Come sisters, brothers, gather near, for we've come to share our worry.
We feel what some folks have been saying
About Latin Americans, the truth's been misconstrued. There's all kinds of talk about building a wall down along the southern border.
Building a wall between me and you.
Lord, and if such nonsense should come true, then we'll have to knock it down. 'Cause that idea won't fly so high as a wingless bird in a rock-hard sky. So no, sirree, we won't comply. We're going to stand our ground. To love thy neighbor as thyself is a righteous law to live by.
But they're seeing a different soul.
They break us up so they stay strong, and ignorantly we're strung along until we meet our doom. Yes, our leaders are so ripe with sin, they feed us chance to rope us in. But someday soon we'll find, my friends, that we're pinned against the wall. Come friends, come gather round, for to sing, oh sing we joyfully.
Let us sing about a better world,
where better paths will soon unfurl, where no man's blood shall stain the soul of a land where freedom reigns.
That's Che Apalache. And we are just about out of time, everybody, so we are going to come back next week with part 2, featuring these same guests, Che Apalache plus Aoife O'Donovan, and more. I'm Nick Forster. Thanks for listening to eTown.
This is a production of eTown.